Hi, welcome to the Ohio Valley Sports Blog Video Podcast NHL edition. I'm BJ.
I'm Cody.
I'm Ian.
All right, let's start out with the Penguins. Really impressive win tonight over the Caps. They're on a losing streak. Lost what, 3 straight?
Well, they snapped it against Anaheim.
No, before the Anaheim game.
Two. They had lost 2.
2-game losing streak. Back that up with 2 straight wins against 2 really good teams. I mean, Anaheim's a really big force.
The thing with that
West.
Anaheim win, though, I wouldn't look too much at that Anaheim win. Anaheim had just been coming off a long. That was the end of a very long East Coast swing for them. But, I mean, obviously their legs probably weren't underneath them. But a win over a good Anaheim team, they're leading that division out there. I
Right,
mean,
and then,
that's an impressive win in and of itself.
Right, and then
the way they did it too. I mean,
they played defense.
I mean, the way they did it too. That you give up that goal in the third period. It's a scoreless game heading into the third period, and you give up that goal, and then boom goal, boom goal, boom goal, and it's a 3-1 game, and you ride that out to the end. That was an impressive. You guys are giving me the stare.
Yeah, Pittsburgh scored first.
Oh, Pittsburgh scored first.
And
then Anaheim
immediately
tied it.
answered.
Yeah, Anaheim immediately tied it, and then Pittsburgh, boom, goal.
But still,
all those goals were scored within what, like a 4-minute and 4-second span of the game.
The entire game was scoreless. And 4-minute span, 4 goals.
Yeah. And Ian, hold your breath. The Pens have been playing defense the last couple games.
Right. Exactly. Then you add in tonight's game a 4-0 win over the Caps, who who had overtaken the Pens in the division a couple days ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big win right there.
It's a statement win.
It really is, because the Metropolitan Division is just so horrible.
Well, I mean,
it's going to come down to the Pens and Caps. So anytime you can beat the Caps, it's always a good thing.
And anytime you can beat the Caps, even if there isn't anything division-wise.
Right, I mean, and then you go into their house, beat them 4-0.
Shut them out in their house.
Right, I mean, that's a huge
I heard this stat today. Braden Holtby played in net for the Caps tonight, and in his career, do you know what his numbers are against the Pens heading into tonight? I don't know what the numbers work out to tonight after tonight's game.
I would say 5-20.
No, he is 0-4 with an 8.2 goals against average.
Pretty close.
I mean,
that's not good at all.
And then he gives up another 4 tonight. So I'm not going to read too much into that, but doesn't it, I mean, I guess there's just that certain team that always seems to have your number. And for Holtby, I guess it's the Penguins. I mean, and the Penguins aren't a bad team to have your number with as much offense as they can put up at a time.
No, they're separated by 3 points now. But, I mean, when it comes down to the end of the season, when it comes down to crunch time, do the Penguins win or do the Caps win?
Well, before I answer that question, I'm going to pose a question that was asked earlier today on the fan as I was listening to it. I'm gonna.
What show? I'm just curious.
Starkey Miller and Muller.
Okay. Great show.
Yeah. I was listening to that show, and they asked this hypothetical question. It's a fill in the blank, okay?
Right.
The Penguins are missing what right now? If you could list one thing that the Penguins are missing, what would it be?
That's a good question. For me, right now, with the way the defense has played the last couple games, they've scored goals the past couple games. The biggest thing they're missing for me, not that it affects every game, is a good backup goalie.
Yeah. With the Vokoun injury, I mean, that obviously
that popped into my mind. But if we're going off what the first thing was, defensemen. It's great that we played defense these last couple games, but I mean, let's face it. What's been our problem in the last couple of years in the postseason? Defense.
Well, I mean,
we go out and sign Rob Scuderi. He gets hurt.
Well, let me expand on. We're missing defensive defensemen.
Yeah,
I mean, we have a lot of defensemen who like to score.
Let me give you my little bit of information on this, because I think there's like a 1A and 1B that the Pens are missing. 1A I think is third line production. Okay. Third line goal scoring. It hasn't been there all year. And you think about it, and this is what is always going to get brought up when you think about third line goal scoring. You remember the 09 team, the team that won the Stanley Cup. Their third line Jordan Stahl ran that thing to perfection. He orchestrated the whole thing. That was his job, and he did it greatly. The Penguins don't have that this year. I mean, they've kind of bounced guys around on that line, trying to figure out who to get. You figure if the Pens get a solid third line behind the Crosby line, behind the Malkin line. And speaking of Malkin, we were talking about this earlier, and we come to the consensus that as long as they're winning, is there really a problem with Malkin being a setup man on that second line?
No, I mean, he had 2 assists tonight.
He has 20 assists on the year.
That's production. That's what you're
19 assists on the year.
I mean, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for production. Whether it comes by goals or assists, I just want him scoring points.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand what's so wrong. Like the other night on the he's making his NHL on the Brian Gibbons goal.
Yeah.
I mean, that setup by Malkin was so ridiculously awesome.
You could have put that in, BJ.
Right, I mean, anyone could have put that in. So if he's making plays like that, he added 2 more assists tonight. He doesn't always have to be the one that scores. I mean, you look at his line as it stands right now, you have Dupuis and you have James Neal. You have 2 of the top wingers in the league. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do the scoring. You just have to set them up.
Yeah. Now, my 1B that I think the Pens are missing right now, and we talk about him all the time, Chris Letang. Now, obviously, we know what Letang's style was in the old system of the Penguins. The freewheeling, score 80 goals a night kind of,
That's impressive.
Thing.
80 goals in a night is very impressive.
At nights, it seemed like that's what they were trying for at times, but there were nights that it seemed like they were going for it. But in reality, though, I don't think he's figured out his niche in this new style that the Pens are playing now. Because you can tell that the Penguins have kind of pulled it back a little bit in terms of the freewheeling. They want to get back on that defense a little bit. They want to get back and play a little more defense. And Letang is still, you can see it, kind of trying to figure out where he fits into that. And I think a good place for him to start with that would be on the power play. Now, you talk about the Pens power play, and it's been a little anemic thus far, which is really rare. They got a power play goal tonight, which is a good thing. It's a very good thing when you get power play goals. But
was that myself?
Yeah. It's okay. But no, what would you do to the lines, the power play lines? What would you do to the power play lines at this point to try and get a spark going?
Honestly, you would have to have, on your first line, you would have Crosby. I like Kunitz on the power play because he's a guy who likes to get down there on the net. Adding another winger like James Neal, a guy who's a sniper. Then for your point man, I like having Evgeny Malkin out there. And then
as long as Malkin's on the right point. Playing him on the left point when you set up your power play to the right is just making him completely useless out there.
Right. And then last year when Letang was injured, you had
Paul Martin?
You had Paul Martin on the power play. He fits that power play perfectly because Chris Letang, as much as I appreciate his skills, it feels like he tries to be the scorer on the power play. When you have Crosby, Malkin, Kunitz all on the ice at the same time.
The way the lines are right now, it's 87, 71, 18, 58, and 44 the first line.
Okay. That's a good line.
That's a good line. But let me tell you how I'd fix that line. This is my, and it's one change. It's one change. 18 comes off, and 14 goes in. Kunitz goes in. He plays the front of the net. Crosby plays the goal line. Malkin plays the right half boards. Letang plays the right side point. Orpik plays the left side point. Crosby is at his best when he's playing on the goal line. Kunitz is a guy that if you want to develop a more physical presence in front, he's a good guy to start with. He's not a big body, but he's a very strong physical player. He's a grinder. He's not afraid to take those hits. And Malkin is a guy where we've seen what he can do when he gets space along the half wall. We know that he can create plays. And apparently he's decided that he's going to be a setup man this year, which isn't a bad thing when you have Crosby patrolling below the goal line and Letang playing behind you.
No, because you saw in the past when he and Crosby both wanted to score the power play goal, they didn't go well together on the power play. But if like you said, if Malkin wants to play setup man,
Go ahead.
That makes the power play 600% better.
Now, as good as that first line sounds, let me tell you what I do with that second line. 18 is the center on that second line. You put Jokinen down there, and I say you put a guy like Pascal Dupuis out there on that line too. You let Dupuis play the half wall position on that one. Or maybe even send Dupuis to the front of the net. You could switch out Dupuis and Jokinen really interchangeably there. I say Alimano runs the right side point, and I say you put, I don't know, maybe Derek Engelland on the left side.
Goal scorer.
Derek Engelland goal scorer.
Derek Engelland goal scorer. But I mean,
a guy I would like to see out on the second power play. He had a power play goal tonight, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It's Bo Bennett.
Yeah, Bo Bennett.
He's a guy very much like Malkin who likes to. This year's Malkin, at least, who likes to dish out first and score second, and that really bodes well for the Penguins' power play.
Absolutely. I think if the Pens, getting back to the original question, which I know it seemed like I strayed a far ways off from, but getting back to it, I feel like if the Pens can establish a good power play unit, and if Chris Letang can get himself going, I feel like the Pens win this division running away. I feel like obviously, Ovechkin has been playing out of his mind thus far this year. He was shut out tonight. That's not going to happen very often. He's been on a tear this year. He leads the league in goals. He leads the league in power play points. He's on a tear this year, and he's set up a lot of other guys. Nicholas Backstrom is having a tremendous year this year for the Caps.
Right.
He's set up other guys on that roster that are really playing well. The Caps are going to be a good team. They're going to be a playoff team. I feel like if Letang gets going and the power play gets going, and I feel like those are intertwined in a way, if that happens, the Pens win this division run away. If that doesn't happen, it's tighter. I still think the Pens have maybe a 2-3 point edge on it, but it'll be closer if those two things don't happen.
Right, and back to what your question was about what the Penguins need at this moment, fill in the blank. You said a steady third line.
Yeah.
I just want to pose this question. How can there be a steady third line when you have Bo Bennett going from the third line to the second line up to the first line? All this movement going around.
I think that's a lot because they're trying to find a way to spark that third line.
Right.
You got to get the right chemistry on that line.
But
And Bennett's a good enough player that he can play a first line.
The only consistent player on that third line that's been consistently playing on it, not that he's been playing consistent, is Sutter. So I mean, is that an indictment of Sutter's play so far?
No, I mean,
just finding
obviously Sutter hasn't played up to expectations that we all had for him this year. He hasn't been bad this year.
9 points, 4 goals, 5 assists, which isn't great, but it's not killing you.
No, it's not. He hasn't played bad.
And a lot of those goals are like end of the game. He's an end of the game scorer.
He's an ender, is what I'd like to call him. He's a guy he's a finisher. But I feel like I think he should be an 8 to 9 goal guy right now.
Yes.
With as much potential and talent as he has. Okay. If they get the right combination on that line for him, he's going to explode.
So give me your third line. What is your third line, ideal third line that the Pens should keep from here just to try out? Like what's your idea of it?
Sutter, Jokinen, and give me a guy. I think the big question is who do you put in at that third spot with guys like Sutter and Jokinen?
Sutter and Jokinen
because you have
so solid.
You have to determine what type of personality you want that third line to have. Historically, third lines are grinder kind of lines. Well, the Pens' third line, I don't think they have the personnel to have that third line be a grinder kind of line.
Craig Adams, I don't know who you.
They miss Craig Adams. You can tell that they're missing Craig Adams, but I wouldn't be opposed to maybe seeing Bennett go back down to that third line if it gives a spark. If it gives them a spark, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I love Bo Bennett, and I think Bo Bennett is going to be a star in this league.
Right, especially on that first
line. I don't think the first line is why. I think they're trying to really ignite that second line because you've seen so many wingers playing with Malkin. And that's the thing they don't talk about when they talk about how Malkin's goal production is down this year. He's been playing with anyone on.
I mean, his wing. He's been missing his best friend on the team, a guy who he loves playing with James Neal. He's just now getting back into the swing of things.
We talked about how you want how it's okay if Malkin decides he wants to be the setup
Right.
guy. If the Pens decide that they don't want Malkin to be a setup guy, if they want Malkin to be a goal scorer, there is only one logical option that you have to get him going. And you know where I'm going, and you know where I'm going. He has to go up to the first line and play wing with Crosby. That's the only way you have to get him go. If you have to have him be a goal scorer, that's the only way you're gonna get him going immediately.
Not that I don't think that would work because you just move center up to the second line center, which he's more than capable of being.
You have Jokic
instead,
and then you go
the third line.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be crazy.
But I mean, I don't know if there's such a pressure within the organization to have Malkin
I think
score
it's
more. If it's the
media-based.
media,
No, I think the media and I think the fans are.
I'll tell you
I think
who
the
it is.
fans is in general.
Clearly, it's Ron Cook in New York Vinny. They don't know what they're talking about.
Sure. I saw 3 columns today on Twitter, all from 3 different columnists in Pittsburgh, all saying, "Wow, Malkin needs to score more." Are they not watching the same game we're watching?
I mean, they're winning the games, folks. I mean, what more can you ask for? I'm okay with Evgeny Malkin being a 50 assist guy.
And let me add in, none of these articles were written by hockey reporters.
No.
They're all by freelance columnists.
Yeah, I'm okay with Malkin being a 50, 60, 70 assist guy if they win games because of it.
If the Penguins at the end of the year race the Stanley Cup, nobody's going to say how many goals did Malkin have on the year.
Let's move on to a really tight division race in the Atlantic Division. You have the Bruins in first place, Lightning in second, Maple Leafs, Red Wings, and the Montreal Canadiens all separated by 5 points. Who do you like to win?
I'm just gonna eliminate the Lightning for the time being until Steven Stamkos comes back.
Right.
I mean,
obvious.
And let me just say one thing on that. Okay, Mike Tomlin, but obviously the standard is the standard. But but Stamkos getting hurt might have been the worst thing for the league at this point because you saw the league's best player versus player rivalry play out on the ice. Right. And it's good that Ovechkin's going again because that rekindles that great player versus player rivalry. But if you could bottle that kind of rivalry and just send it to the other 28 teams in the league would boom in popularity. And Steven Stamkos is that guy for the Lightning. Mm-hmm. He is that kind of guy for the Lightning. I think if you wanna rank the players in the NHL as far as how they've played this year, I think you go Crosby, Ovechkin, and up until he got injured, it was probably Stamkos. I'd say probably Stamkos, with maybe you could throw in Matt Duchene or Gabriel Landeskog or somebody like that. But the Lightning, until they get Stamkos back, I just don't see that they're going to have the offensive capabilities to keep up.
Yeah, and to add on Stamkos, last year, Cody and I went to one of the games against the Lightning. We got there probably about an hour early, and we're sitting there watching pregame warm-ups.
He's ridiculous, isn't he?
When he shot the puck, I mean, he's just sitting there by himself, hitting the line of pucks. When he shot the puck, you couldn't see it when it went into the air.
No.
He hit it that hard and that fast. I mean, God bless the goaltenders that have to try and stop that. But he's probably, like you said, a top 3, top 5 player in the league up to this point in the year.
And I'm going to say this. The Bruins haven't gotten great production from their skating lines. A lot of their success has been based on their goaltending. And again, Tuukka Rask. Unbelievable.
That can carry you.
Unbelievable player. Unbelievable goalie. I mean, I think he's the best goalie in the NHL right now.
I mean, he's certainly playing like it.
I think he's the best goalie in the league right now. The Maple Leafs have also been really surprising to me. They made that playoff run last year, and when you look back on it, again, I'm going to keep saying this all the time, they should have beat Boston in that series.
It was a miracle that Boston won.
But the Maple Leafs, Kessel is getting going again. Boland's going again.
Phil Kessel.
Phil Kessel. I love Phil Kessel. But in reality, you got Kessel going, Boland going. You've got their two goalie system is working out well for them. I mean, they're red hot. The Red Wings, just when you're ready to count them out, here they go winning hockey games again. And Daniel Alfredsson's kind of found his way around there now.
Yeah, that was a really good addition.
That was a really good addition for them, and I didn't think it was going to be that. I thought Alfredsson was way past his time, and here he comes. He's playing really well, and Pavel Datsyuk is still doing his thing. Tell me a guy who has better hands than Pavel Datsyuk.
You can't name one.
You can't name them. They aren't there.
His shootout moves when he goes to a shootout, you know he's going to score. He's up.
You know what I would love to see? I would love to see a game of keep away between him and Patrick Kane. That would be the most entertaining thing I will have ever seen in my life. And getting back to the Montreal Canadiens are in there. Galchenyuk's played well. Lars Eller's played well. They're getting great goaltending as well.
I mean, Carey Price has really reasserted himself this year.
Absolutely. I mean, and he's probably going to get the start for Canada in the Olympics. You figure he's probably going to be far and away the starter for them.
Yeah.
But to ask me who wins, right now it's the Boston Bruins, based solely on Tuukka Rask, and I feel like if that offense explodes like I think it can, I don't see anyone else in that division who can touch them.
Yeah, they really lost a lot when they lost Sagan last year.
And Horton.
And they lost Horton too. Last year, I mean,
and Yager.
And of course the great play of Jaromir Yager. I'm surprised that they beat Chicago last year, or that Chicago beat them last year. I mean, the way they were playing up until that point in the playoffs. But like you said, this year, I mean, it's a little bit different. Their goaltending is really carrying them.
I'll say
but
this.
If you're gonna have a goaltender carry you, who
Tuukka
better
Rask.
than Tuukka Rask?
I'll say this about the Bruins, though. One guy that I've been surprisingly impressed with how well he's fit in there, Jerome Iginla.
You mean the Jerome Iginla that they traded for last year but didn't trade for last year?
Yeah.
The one that all the Boston fans booed?
Yeah.
And the ones that all the Boston fans now love?
Yeah.
Jerome Iginla.
That Jerome Iginla.
Okay.
I really didn't think he'd make that great of an impact.
I didn't think he'd have the speed to skate with them.
No.
Because you looked at him in Pittsburgh and you could tell that he had lost a step. He wasn't quite as fast, and that's why he wasn't as effective with the Penguins. They were that freewheeling, get up and down the ice kind of team, and Iginla didn't have the speed for that. He has fit in really well with the Bruins' offensive attack, and he's been a really good option for them all year.
Right. B, to answer your question, I'm with Ian. I think Bruins won, Red Wings a close second, because you just can't count out the Red Wings. And then I think the Maple Leafs coming out there. I do think all three of those teams will make the playoffs.
Yeah, I'll agree with you guys and go with the Bruins. I mean, just stemming from last year's playoffs into play this season, they've been the best team in that division, and I think that's going to continue. Probably the best division in hockey is the Central Division. You have the Blackhawks in first, the Blues in second, the Avalanche in third, and the Wild in fourth. All four of those teams are separated by 2 points, and they all have at least 30 points.
Wow.
You're not seeing better hockey than in the Central Division.
No.
I mean, the Blackhawks, starting the year last year, going 24 games before they got their first regulation loss. They parlay that into a cup. The St. Louis Blues have been great. The Avalanche have been one of the most exciting young teams.
One of the most surprising, exciting young teams.
I feel like the NHL really botched the situation with
Varlamov, yeah.
Varlamov, and that kind of takes away their likability a little bit. But
then you watch them play and you fall in love with them all over again.
And then the Wild is a team who, after they signed Parise, I mean, you thought last year they're going to make an impact.
Parise and Suter. People forget they brought in Ryan Suter as well.
I mean, it took them a last-second dramatic kind of finish to the season to make the playoffs. If they hadn't drawn the Blackhawks in the first round, they might have made a little bit of noise.
I will say this. The key to the Wild's success this year, Josh Harding in net. What what a year this guy is having, and what a story. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this. He has MS. He has multiple sclerosis, and he's out there playing goalie in the NHL.
That's crazy.
Not only playing
Not playing
goalie,
playing exceptionally well
Starting
goalie.
goalie. Yeah.
And playing exceptionally well. He had a rough night last night, but still, I mean, it's one of those things where they're in this thing. And the best part I think about this is that all these teams are 4 really young teams that are going to be really good for a long time. This is going to be year in and year out one of the most competitive divisions in this league for at least the next 5 to 10 years.
All right,
and thinking about the Avalanche as a really good young team, there are trade rumors last year about the Penguins maybe trading Letang there.
Yeah.
Imagine Letang in their system.
Oh,
That's
he'd fit in well there. All right, Ian. So out of those 4 teams, I know we can't really. It's still kind of early in the season, but who do you think ends up winning that division?
Most people would go with the Blackhawks just because, you know, the cup and how good they've played thus far.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people would go with the Avs again. They're a young team and they've played really well. I think the St. Louis Blues win that division. A guy that I've really liked how well he's played is TJ Oshie. A lot of people don't know his name around the league.
I do.
A lot of people don't know his name in terms of outside St. Louis and people who follow the league really, really closely.
What are you saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm just letting people. I'm just trying to spread the word.
Inform our audience, Ian.
People look out for this guy because the guy is a sniper. I mean, he puts the puck in places where you don't think he can fit the puck at all. I mean, it's impressive what he does with the puck, and he's got guys around him that that set him up so well, and all of their lines are scoring so well right now. I mean, you remember they had the best series of the playoffs last year against the Kings.
Yeah.
That was the best series of the playoffs.
That was a really big shame that was a first round match.
Yes.
I mean, two really good teams. For me though, if I had to pick right now, I would go with the Blackhawks. Crawford has just continued to play really well, and I mean, until you knock the best team off, you got to go with the best team.
I can see that.
That's a pretty good and fair argument. I'm gonna pick the Wild because I feel like they're more of an underrated 30-point team, if that can even happen.
Yeah. I'll agree with you on that because I feel like they're not getting talked about as much as they should be.
Which is really great for you because it had that chip on your shoulder and you come in under the radar. I think they could sneak in and maybe win this division.
And your final super competitive division, you have it out in the Pacific Division. You have Anaheim, San Jose, Phoenix, LA, and Vancouver. They're all separated by 5 points right now. So I'll tee it off to you guys. Who wins?
If I had to pick, I'm gonna go with the Sharks. As far as a regular season team, they're the best out of these 5 teams. They've proven year in and year out with Marleau, with Antti Niemi. I mean, they're a team that's gonna win you games in the regular season. Now, if that's gonna parlay into a big playoff run, it hasn't so far.
No.
If I had to pick a team that was gonna make a playoff run out of these 5 teams, the Kings. They're a team that's really set up to make a good playoff run.
I'll say this about the Kings though: they lost Jonathan Quick today for a couple of months with a groin injury. So that's gonna hurt.
That's gonna set them back.
It's gonna hurt, but maybe he gets healthy for the postseason and is fresh and dominates.
You gotta hope that they don't fall far enough behind. That
a team that I didn't really think about as a division leader coming into the season is the Ducks. I mean, they're kind of
It's the Mighty Ducks, baby.
the Mighty Ducks.
Mighty Ducks.
Great throwback uniforms. They should go back to them.
Oh, please do.
That'd be awesome.
I mean, they had a rough night in Pittsburgh the other night, but I mean, they're a really, really good team, and one I didn't really see coming.
Right, I mean, Ryan Getzlaf is just...
Getzlaf's good.
it-
Solani's played real
just
well
as
on
good
his
as it
farewell
gets,
tour.
really. I mean, just when Pittsburgh goes up 1-0, or maybe it was 2-0, I think it was 1-0.
It was 1-0,
and he
tied
immediately
it.
responds. I mean, that's what good players do. But for me, I've been impressed with the Phoenix Coyotes.
Oh, the Coyotes, the
'Cause-
Yotes.
I mean, because there's always talk. I mean, at least I think so. There's always talk of, why does Phoenix even have a
Well, they
hockey
came
team?
dangerously close to
Yeah.
losing it this
Right,
offseason.
Right. I mean, but
The
I mean,
Nordiques.
The Nordiques.
but I mean, they've been
Seattle
playing
still deserves a team, by the way. But
they've been playing really well out there in the tight Western Division. I think it'll come down to. I just like them. I don't know why. I just like them. But I mean, the Sharks. BJ's right about the Sharks. They're always like the regular season champs of everything. just so many great division races going on right now in hockey.
It was
Yeah.
it was
And-
2-0 when Getzlaf scored that goal.
Ian, let me hear your pick on this one. Then I want to bring up something else. Two other things before we wrap this up.
okay, my pick in the Pacific. I think it's a 2-horse race between the Ducks and the Sharks. Really, I like what Vancouver's done, but I feel like their goaltending is always just so inconsistent.
Right.
That I don't think that they're going to be able to keep pace. And again, if their key guys go hot or go cold, and you're talking about Kessler and the Sedins, really, if those guys go cold, I don't think that they're going to be able to have what it takes to
Right,
keep
and then
firepower.
you have a wild card in the coach with Tortorella, who
Yeah.
I mean, you don't ever really know what you're gonna get.
Exactly. I think the Kings, the longer Jonathan Quick's out, the farther back that sets
Right.
them. Obviously, they have great offensive weapons with Dustin Brown and Anze Kopitar, and you can talk about all of that all you want, but I feel like until they get a reliable guy back in goal, I just see them falling behind. The Coyotes, I don't know that they are going to be able to keep up this pace. It's good to see them do that right now, and I think they played surprisingly well, and I think they're set up real well for good long-term success in the future. But in terms of this year, I just feel like they're gonna taper off a little bit. If I had to pick right now, I'm gonna pick the Sharks.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick the Sharks just because Joe Thornton's played extremely well. They keep getting production from guys that you don't think they'd get production from. Thomas Hurdle is still unbelievable as a rookie, and I just think that they're really going to be. I think they're going to seize control of this division down the stretch when it counts, and I see them kind of pulling away with it at the end.
Okay, two quick ideas I want to throw out here, and now that I sit here and I think about the NHL. Okay, one, wasn't it so much better last year when there was so much hockey being played in a
Yeah.
short amount of time?
Yes, it
And
was.
when the Pens play Monday, don't play again until Friday. I hate it.
Mhm.
Maybe I got spoiled last year
Yeah.
because there was a strike and they had a shortened season. But it was awesome seeing the Pens play so much
Every
back to back
day.
to back, and it was just so condensed. So I raised a question: Would you be that heartbroken if the NHL shrunk down to like 41 games or 50 games?
I would, just because I like the 82 game season. I think for the fans that enjoyed that kind of hockey, that torrent pace of the season, wait until you see what happens after the Olympic.
Right. I mean, that's what I was thinking. We
Wait
do have
until
the
you
Olympics.
wait until you see
Right.
what happens after the Olympic break, because there's going to be a lot of games in a
Yes.
very short amount of time,
Which is
and
gonna be
then
awesome.
and then after that's done,
Postseason.
the playoffs start, which is the best playoffs in all of sports, by the way.
But-
I'm just going to say that, but
BJ, you got an opinion on this?
Yeah, it was awesome last year.
it was fun.
I mean, it really sucked waiting because
Right.
if you knew, like, if there was a promise of, yeah, once January comes around, the NHL is going to start, it wouldn't be so bad to
Yeah.
wait. But I mean, that was the worst part about it. But once it started, I mean, Oh, it was hockey every day. How can you be upset about
No,
that?
it was
No.
great.
And the really fun part about it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like seeing the Pens play the Ducks. I'm excited to see them play the Kings and things like that. But I love the only Eastern Conference schedule. You only play teams that you're in the playoff running against. I don't know. It was a lot of fun last year.
Right, it directly influenced what you did. And another thing that I liked about it was there wasn't time to go on a 10-game losing streak, or you know what I mean. You didn't have time
No,
because you lost 5 or 6 in a row.
you're out.
You could put out, and that's why I love. That's why I know why they had the 82-game season because of the money and everything else, and it extends out into months instead of like 2 months.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't. It seems like it seemed like from about February on, every night was playoff hockey. It was just so great. And the last thing I want to bring up, and please forgive me for saying this, but look out! Here comes the Philadelphia
I
Flyers.
knew you were going to say it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I wanted to talk about it,
I
honestly.
mean, they won 4 or 5, and their only loss came into a shootout. So they have 9 straight points.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did they just remember how to play hockey, or what's going on up there, Ian?
I mean, it's just one of those things where I feel like early on it was a team in shift. It was a team in flux. I feel like Peter Laviolette had lost control of that team. Stretching back to the debacle that was their season a year ago, and then that carried into this year. They really didn't do a lot to improve their weak points during the offseason. But what they did was they got guys in there who are great leaders, who are great motivators. I mean, Vinny Lecavalier has not only been a great leader, but he's played really well for them thus far on the ice. And he's a great guy in the locker room. I mean, I think now that they've got leadership going, and now that they've got Claude Giroux going, this is a team that I think is going to kind of climb its way back into it. I'm not going to say that they get in, but I expect them to kind of get back up into this race.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that kind of go as Giroux goes. I mean, he's their most talented player, even though he wasn't playing like it early in the season. He's their best player, and I mean, he needs to be productive for them to be productive. But I mean, it's fun to see them suck.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great to see them suck. But part of what makes a good rivalry is the games meaning something.
Exactly.
So, I mean, if they start to pick up the pace, I mean, towards the end of the year, our games against the Flyers mean something, I'm all for it.
Of course.
And then beating them in the playoffs,
even better.
Beating them in the Eastern Conference Finals, that'd be great.
Fantastic.
Smashing their hopes.
Wonderful.
All right, that'll do it for this week. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for watching.